Hi everyone, welcome back. Well, we've been talking about water animals and water, and so we're going to do a science experiment. And every year it's one of the favorite science experiments that we do with the kids. So I'm a little sad to not do this with you in person because I know you would all be just pushing to get to the front, and I would love to see your reaction, but this year we have to do it on a video, but that's okay. And hey, listen, you can try this at home too. This is what I'm going to do. I've got a big bowl of water. Let me move the camera so you can see it. And I found a bunch of items, and we're going to predict or guess if the items will sink or float, and then we're going to drop it in and see what happens. So we're making a guess or a hypothesis, and then we're going to test it and see what happens. So we're going to start with a marble. A marble. Make a prediction or a guess. Do you think, I'm going to move this a little bit, do you think the marble will sink or float? What is going to happen? Is it going to sink down to the bottom, or is it going to float up on top? What do you think will happen? All right, did you make your guess? I'm going to drop it in now, and we're going to see what happens. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Ooh, it sank right to the bottom. Do you see it there? It sank to the bottom. Now, if you try this at home, you can get even extra hand exercise by using, if you have some tongs, use some tongs and pull your item out of the water. I wasn't sure that was going to work with a marble, but it did. Yay. Okay, so now we have a chart. Okay, we are going to put a dot on sink because the marble sank down to the bottom of the bowl. So far we have one dot on sink. Let's see what else happens. Okay, next we're going to do a stick. Okay, this is one of the sticks that we've been using in the different activities we're doing. Make a prediction. Oh, I just dropped it. There we go. Make a prediction. Do you think the stick will sink down to the bottom or float up on top? What's your guess or your prediction? Sink or float? Okay, let's try it. Here we go. We're going to drop it in. I'll move the camera a little bit so you can even see better. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Whoa, the stick. Let's see, there you go. Now you can see it. The stick is floating up on top. It did not sink down to the bottom. So a stick floats. I'm going to use my tongs to get my hand exercise. I'm going to take that out. And now I'm going to do a little math exercise. And I'm going to find stick, and I'm going to find float, and I'm going to put a dot. Whoops, that's not a very good dot, Miss Linda. There we go. There's a nice dot. So we have one sink and one float. Next, we're going to try one of our toy dinosaurs. Okay, let's see if the dinosaur will sink or float. What is your prediction or your guess? Will it sink down to the bottom, or will it float up on the top? Make a guess. And here we go. Ready? 3. This time we'll count backwards. 3, 2, 1. Okay, the dinosaur is floating. Can you see it? It's up on top of the water. It's not down on the bottom. It is floating up on top. So a dinosaur is going to float. I'm going to use my tongs. I'm going to take that out, and we're going to put a dot on float for dinosaur. So how many do we have floating so far? We have 1, 2. And how many do we have sinking? Just 1. Okay, next we're going to try a buckeye. Let's try a buckeye. So here we go. What is your guess or your prediction? Is the buckeye going to sink or float? What do you think? All right, we're going to count backwards. This time, we're going to count backwards from 5. Ready? Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whoa! It went down to the bottom and then it came back up to the top. Can you see that? It's not down on the bottom, it's floating. Let's see if it will do that again. It went down to the bottom and then it came back up. It bounced. So the buckeye is also floating. I'm going to use my tongs, exercise my fingers or my hands a little bit. And boy, we have a lot of things floating. Let's put a dot on float for buckeye. So let's see how many things do we have floating. I'm going to point to each one, say a new number every time. 1, 2, 3. 3 floating. Next is a shell, a seashell. What is your prediction? Will it sink or float? What do you think? Make a guess. Okay, this time we're going to start at 1 and count upwards to 5. Count with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, the shell went right down to the bottom. See how it sank? It sank down to the bottom, okay? It did not float up on top. It's not on the top, it's on the bottom. So it sank. So we're going to take our shell out. I'm exercising my hand again. And now we have another one for sink. That shell sank to the bottom. All right, so how many do we have for sink? 1, 2. How many for float? 1, 2, 3. Okay, what's next? A pine cone. A pine cone. Make your guess or your prediction. Sink or float? Is it going to sink to the bottom? Is it going to float up on top? Okay, this time we're going to count backwards from 7. Ready? Here we go. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whoa, that pine cone, I'm going to move the camera. It is sitting right up on top. It is floating. It did not come down to the bottom. It's floating up on top. It's a little bit harder to see on a video than it would be if you were in person. Okay, so the pine cone floated. Let's put a dot on float. Okay, so how many floats? Take your finger, point to each one, say a new number every time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have sink, 1, 2. Next is a rock. A rock. What do you think the rock will do? Will it sink to the bottom? Will it float up on top? What do you think? All right, let's see. This time we're going to start at 1 and count to 7, and then we're going to drop it in. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whoa, that rock went right down to the bottom. Do you see it down here on the bottom? It did not float on top. It sank to the bottom. So let me exercise my hand again. Whoa, it doesn't want to come out. It's like I like being in the water. Okay, and the rock did sink. So we're going to put a dot and sink. Make sure I get my dot in the right place. Okay, so how many sinks do we have? 1, 2, 3. And how many floats? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's very close. I don't know which we'll have more of. Next we have a piece of bark. This is bark from a tree. Do you think this is going to sink to the bottom or float up on top? What do you think? Make a guess. Okay, this time we're going to count backwards from 10. Ready? I've got it over the bowl. Backwards. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Goodbye, bark. Ooh, the bark is floating up on top. It's not on the bottom. It is up on top of the water. So bark, this is bark from a tree in my yard. Bark floats. Bark floats. Let's put a dot on float. Boop. There we go. Okay, next is a marker. A marker. Do you think that will sink or float? We're going to make a guess, and then I'm going to start at 1 and count to 10 and then drop it in. Do you have your guess? Is it going to float on top or sink down to the bottom? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The marker is floating up on top. Okay, it did not sink to the bottom. It is floating up on top of the water. So markers float. You'll have to see what you can find around your house. Make sure you check with your mom and dad before you go dropping things in the water. You wouldn't want to check to see if their phone or their iPad floats or something like that. But check and make sure they don't mind if you find a few things and drop it in the water. See if you can guess and then test your prediction. Drop it in the water and see. Okay, let's count our floats. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's count our sinks. 1, 2, 3. We have one more thing. We're going to drop in a spoon. A spoon. Okay? What do you guess? Sink or float? We're running out of time, so I'm just going to count backwards from 3. 3, 2, 1. And the spoon sank down to the bottom. There it is. So we have one more for sink. Whoops. One more for sink. Boop. All right. So we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4 for sink. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for float. So float had a few more. Hey, see if you can try this at home and let me know what you find that can sink or float. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye.